Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be taking a look at this album here. It's by the Trashcan Sinatras and it is their album Cake. So I've just been doing the usual thing in this video, giving a bit of background information about the album, then showing you my vinyl copy of it here, and then looking at each of the album songs in detail. So yeah, the Trashcan Sinatras were a Scottish band from Irvine on the west coast. They were formed in 1986. Now I'm not quite sure how I ended up discovering these. I'm possibly something to do with the record label. They're on Go Discs, and that's the same label what the House Martins are on, which I'm a big fan of. So it was possibly that was how I got into them. But also this album was produced by John Leckie, a very famous record producer, worked with XTC and later the Stone Roses. He just produced around this time. So that's possibly also how I ended up discovering them. And yeah, they were kind of formed in that kind of late 80s period where the Scottish music scene was being quite fruitful. A lot of Scottish bands were kind of hitting the mainstream. I'm thinking of the likes of Deacon Blue and the Proclaimers. Now, the lineup of the band consisted of Paul Livingston on guitar, John Douglas also on guitar, Stephen Douglas on drums, David Hune on bass, and Frank Reeder on lead vocals. Now, they were spotted in 1986 or 87 by another record producer, a guy called Simon Dine, who is who I know from his work with Paul Weller, much later on though, in the early 2000s. He was then a worker at Go Discs, and he signed up the band, and with their advance they purchased a recording studio in the nearby town of Kilmarnock, and they named the studio Shabby Road, which is quite a funny name there. And as I said, they also managed to get on board John Leckie. Now, I think it's quite interesting, how a band, out of nowhere can get a big producer like him. But even then, I suppose the Stone Roses did that to some extent as well. They were nothing before they made their debut album with him. So I suppose that had come out a year prior to this. So I think maybe he was just keen to work with some new emerging artists. So upon release, this album was met with critical acclaim, with publication describing it as exceptionally good, and another one as pristine sounding. However, others were a bit more lukewarm on the album, saying that it was tasty but hardly gripping. In terms of commercial success, they're hardly a household name, Trashcan Sinatras, but this album did receive some moderate success, possibly even more so again America, it has to be said. It actually spent 3 months on the Billboard 200, and many of the singles from this album became top 10 hits on the US alternative chart, following its release, they were put a lot of that energy into trying to break the American market. However, here in the UK, it only reached number 74 on the British charts, and none of the singles really fared too well. So I'll just show you my vinyl copy of it here. This is an original pressing of it. I don't believe it's ever been reissued at all. It would be nice to see a reissue of it. They have just recently reissued the second album, which I was very glad about, because originals of that are impossible to get. But yeah, here's the artwork there. I like the back cover, front cover not crazy about. It's just a bit, it kind of, I guess in some ways this looks a bit gothy and a bit kind of shoegazy or that kind of thing, whereas in actual fact it's really just kind of sort of jangle pop sort of thing. So the cover doesn't really fit the music, I don't think. But then you've got the inner sleeve there with another picture, or another slightly blurry picture there of the band, and then you've got the track listing there on the other side. And the record itself, as I said, it's on Go Discs, but it's got a nice kind of custom label which looks like so. Okay, so I'll now go over each of the album songs in detail. I'll score each track out of 10, and then use those scores to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So the record kicks off with a song called Obscurity Knocks. Now I've got the 7-inch single for this, which I'll just quickly show here. So this was the band's debut single, and this is a great song. It is one of the strongest cuts like on the album. You've got this kind of very shimmering quality, all these kind of beautiful guitars on it, just jangling away. And the vocal on this is quite interesting. It's a bit buried like in like the mix. I guess that's a bit of a trademark of theirs. I think like, you know, kind of like vocally is maybe a little bit difficult, I think, in some ways to kind of hear like what like he's kind of singing, a bit like REM, like in like their like early like days, but no, like a really good song though. And I think it's a great like great lyrics on this, I guess, kind of about kind of like the kind of like aging process and that kind of transition like into like adulthood. He sings on it like, and though I ought to be learning, I feel like a veteran of, oh, I like your poetry but I hate your poems. Calendars crumble and I'm knee deep in numbers. I've turned 21, I'm twist, I'm bust, and wrong again. And it's just, yeah, delivered really well. There's a lot of energy again, like the song. And yeah, as I said, this was the debut single, and this did okay again, like America, reached number 12 on the alternative charts there, but in the UK didn't do too great here, only reached number 86, which is a bit of a disappointment there. Though I think it could have been a like a big song, yeah, you know, like it really it's just got a great all-round sound to it, I think. So yeah, that's Obscurity Knox will get a 10 out of 10. Second track on the album is called Maybe I Should Drive. Now this is possibly my favourite song on here. I think it's got, again, a great sound, a very expansive sound, this one. And again, they're doing something a little bit different on this song. A lot more kind of synthesizers on there, kind of driving like the song. You've got, it's kind of these like kind of synth strings and stuff. And I think it just sounds really glorious. And again, on this track, like the Scottish accents are really coming through quite well, which I really like. I do like that. I do like that sort of thing, like that sort of thing, like where they just sing like the natural accent. I think it like really works. And again, perhaps inspired by like the Proclaimers, who had kind of just come on like the scene like a few years earlier. Lyrically quite odd though, this song, I have to say. Again, like many I got like their songs, a little bit abstract lyrically, but this one is kind of following a kind of narrative. But when you actually listen to it and read along like with like the lyrics, it's basically about like sort of like knocking over like driving again like a car and kind of running into a songwriter trudging through the rain. So a bit of an odd lyric, to be honest, like, but a great song though. Again, a great production, a great sound, and yeah, for me, just one of my favourites like on the album. So yeah, Maybe I Should Drive should get a 10 out of 10. Next up is called Threepenny Tears, and yeah, this one is a bit of a slower ballad, this one. It's a little bit on the boring side, I would say. I mean, you've got, like, again, it's quite slow, but, I mean, halfway through you've got quite a nice, pleasing sort of solo, but overall, it's just a little bit sleepy, and again, I'm not really sure what the song's about. There's no real, again, I was kind of listening through the song and had the lyrics on like, the screen, and there's no real kind of standout, like, lyrics like on it for me either. So, yeah, unfortunately for me, yeah, this one would get a 7 out of 10. It's probably one of my least favourites like on the album. Next one is called Even the Odd. Now this song, like I think like the transition between these two tracks works really well. Like kind of like the end of like Threepenny Tears, where it kind of just sort of fades out and meanders out, and then kind of suddenly, you know, like this song kind of fades in, and then you again picks up the tempo quite a bit, this one here. Again, just a really nice kind of jangly song, and again, lyrically some good lyrics on it about kind of struggling to fit in like with like kind of like your surroundings and kind of different people and that. He sings on it like the clumsy climb and the elegant fall, even the odd one out is in with the shout, that may be the story, that may be the lie, with great ease the pole's greased, it's down you slide. So yeah, some great wordplay, some great, yeah, like just like the way it's like delivered, like it's like really good. And yeah, for me, like yeah, like another one of the stronger tracks on the album. So yeah, for me that would get a 9 out of 10. Next track up closes side 1, and it's called Best Man's Fall. And this is a slower track, but what I do really like, it begins with a nice kind of descending acoustic guitar riff, and then you've got some, fantastic lyrics on this one. You're very, I guess, a bit Smithsy, this one lyrically, kind of feeling like you're, so like, I guess, wasting like your life and have, I guess, like nothing to live for sort of thing. He sings in it like the hands off the clock give me a round of applause for getting out of bed, and the scars of the night before have turned into scabs, and I'm seeing double. And yeah, so I mean, some great lyrics on it. It's a great wordplay, like, once again. And I mean, musically, maybe a little bit on the kind of. Again, it brings the tempo down a little bit like on like the sleepier side, but those lyrics are fantastic, and I think that there's a lot of great kind of standout lines like on it, and I think it's like one of like their strongest songs lyrically. So yeah, for me, Best Man Fall will get a 9 out of 10. Next up is called Circling the Circumference, which I've got the 12-inch single here for. So this is possibly the most upbeat song on the album, I would say, or certainly the one which I think like rocks like the hardest. Like, I could really imagine this song being like a live favourite of theirs, perhaps like as like a set closer. But unfortunately for me, it is one of the more least memorable, like on like the album. Like, despite this, once again, it has got their kind of trademark kind of multi-layered vocals on it. But I do think on this song it's maybe a little bit too much. Like, just given like the fact that it is very upbeat, very relentless kind of tempo, and that all the kind of layered backing vocals just become a bit messy for me, I think. So yeah, but yeah, there's still a decent track though, but certainly not for me one of the standouts on the album. So it would get a 7 out of 10 overall. As far as B-sides of this go, you get again 2 unique tracks, both of which I really liked, and possibly like even preferred like to like the actual main track like on here. But yeah, no, like a good song there though, but maybe some better choices though for a single. Like I would say. She's a funny kind of girl. Next one is called Funny. Now this is a another sort of like acoustic ballad on the album. And again, it's basically, this is more of a kind of traditional love song, or probably like as close as Trashcan Sinatras gets like a traditional love song. I mean, you've got some slightly odd lyrics on it. He sings like, he sings it like, I know her face so well, although the colour of her eyes escapes me for the moment, so I'll send out the spies to hassle her at home. So yeah, slightly odd lyrics saying like, you're not quite sure, I guess, where he's going with like some like the lines and that, but I think that's what makes it interesting. I think that's what makes it like an interesting listen though, and again, it's just an all-round really nice, pleasant track that, like, she's a funny kind of girl and quite catchy, good melody I got here. So yeah, for me, would get a 8 out of 10 this one. Next up is another one of the singles from the album. It's Only Tongue Can Tell. Now this is again the 12-inch single for it here, and this is a great track. I like the opening riff like off like the song. I think that's really catchy and really makes like the song stand out like on the album for me. This was a really successful single actually, like in like America, got to number 8 like on like the Billboard alternative charts. So yeah, like a great like top 10 hit like in like America here, like albeit like on a slightly niche chart there though. But yeah, it was successful again like America, but in like the UK it reached number 77 here on the national charts. So those are like the main charts and that, and like this was like the biggest the single, and I'm pretty sure like the biggest chart hit. I don't think they ever had any like any higher charted singles, but this is a great track, and I think it's a really fantastic track, both melodically and also just musically, like musically production wise, and lyrically I think is really good. It's sort of about, I guess, a kind of lack of aspiration and kind of like opportunities, really kind of, I guess the lyrics very much like reminiscent of kind of Thatcher's Britain, like off like the late 80s. He sings in it like, and like the itch to get rich quick has never been so hard to reach, with my hands tied behind my back, shin deep in cement and sand. So again, fantastic lyrics, and yeah, for me, one of my favourites songs on the album. And again, in terms of B-sides, a good track is Useless. That's a good song, which is on here, again, unique to this single. And then Tonight You Belong to Me, I think, is a cover song. And they've got a female single, although it sounds like a child, so I'm not sure if that's maybe like one of like their daughters or like relatives of that. So that's a slightly odd one, but I think it's a cover. It really doesn't sound anything like what they've anything like their kind of trademark style. But no, a great single here, like only Tom could tell. I just wish it was a bit more kind of well known and kind of like well regarded, like as a classic like early 90s single. The next track up is called You Made Me Feel. Now this is another ballad, but again possibly one of the slightly more that sort of like memorable ones. I think melodically, like, it's really good, and it kind of sounds a bit like a Simon and Garfunkel song. I think, you know, it's got a kind of that kind of softly picked like acoustic guitar like on there, and it's just about again having kind of vulnerabilities and kind of but delivered in a kind of lost at sea kind of metaphor and kind of theme. He sings it like, I'm like a boy at sea and I'm stowaway scared that my friends will see the man amongst the many. And again, you've got a nice violin solo, which I think adds a different texture to it, and like something a little bit different like for the album. And yeah, for me, just a good song though. So yeah, that one would get an 8 out of 10. And then we close the album with a song called January's Little Joke. Now this is a song which I always forget about like on the album, but it always is one of my favourites. There's always a track like which when I'm finished, I think, wow, that was a really good song, and it's possibly what made me kind of always, I guess, want to come back to like this album. Like in some ways, I think it's a very distinctive song. Again, the synths are like at the fore like of this one, like these kind of synth strings, which I guess some way sound a bit dated, but you know, I like music from this era, so the fact that it does sound very 80s and very kind of clinical and like just like a synthesizer, that doesn't bother me. Like, and I think is a bonus really, like with like this song here. Like again, good lyrics, a really clever wordplay on it. He sings in it. Like he sings in it, though I knew what argue meant, I knew what punish meant, and I knew what embarrass meant, I never found out what achieve meant. Like that's a good lyric, I think, a really clever lyric. And again, it's a good closer for the album. I think just in terms of its kind of whole atmosphere, it is very grandiose and very kind of, like quite full on like this song. Like, even though it isn't the most memorable track, again, it is one which when I think about this album and the sound of this album, I don't think about this song, but it always, like I said, leaves me like with a good kind of final impression like of the album. So yeah, that would get a 9 out of 10 there for January's Little Joke. Okay, so overall, this album would score 87%. So I think this is a fantastic album. Certainly one of my favourites, like from like the early 90s. I think it's got a really good mix of kind of jangle pop and some really nice like orchestration like on it like as well. Some of the standout tracks for me, though, are the songs which are slightly more upbeat, slightly more kind of jangle pop, and a little bit more kind of, like they're kind of chain mock sounds. So things like Obscurity, Knocks, Maybe I Should Drive, Even the Odd, and Only Tom Can Tell. But there is some nice ballads on here sprinkled throughout, and then also some like interesting moments as well, such as like the closer, some slightly more like experimental stuff like as well. Again, I like the wordplay throughout this album. I think lyrically this is a strong record. And I like, again, the variety like of musical styles like on here, from kind of like these slower ballads to kind of pure sort of jangle pop, slightly more folky stuff, more experimental things. I think it's a really strong debut here from like a band who unfortunately never made it big. Like, you know, this is I wouldn't be surprised if this was their best-selling album, even though this wasn't a big-selling album like at all. Fortunately, like, they never made it big, but I believe that they're still releasing stuff. Actually, I'm pretty sure I've seen something new from them crop up like on like my Spotify, which I thought was a bit odd. So they might be releasing something new, like a new album, or maybe just like a single like or whatnot. But yeah, no, a really great band, and yeah, this is probably like the place to start, and certainly for me I think is like their strongest album. So yeah, that's my review of Cake by the Trashcan Sinatras. So I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time for the next review. Goodbye.